Okay, let's have a quick, brief discussion about some survival mechanisms that living organisms are forced to undergo when conditions in the environment become different. So we all know that animals live in different environmental conditions. So you have things like temperature, food, and water. The level of availability of this keep changing. So at times you have very high temperatures, at times you have low temperatures, at times you have abundance of food, then at times the availability of food drastically decreases. Equally, at times you have high levels of humidity, but then at times the availability of water also drastically reduces. So because of this, you end up realizing that some of these conditions can then become too harsh for the organism to live, for the animal to live the same way that it was living before the conditions changed. For example, it might become too cold when it is winter, or it is too hot and too dry as well during the summer season. So for the animals, for some animals now to survive during such tough times, either when it is too cold or too hot, some of them will slow down their body activities. So they not only slow their body activities down, but they at times go into resting periods for a long time. So they get into a restful mode for a long period of time. So this resting period is what we refer to as dormancy. So the animal becomes dormant. By becoming dormant, then it means the animal is inactive, and its metabolism will also slow down because it's a bit dormant. Haifanyi kazi ikikimbia huku na huku venye ilikuwa inakimbia, because the environmental conditions have become harsh. They are tough. So it needs to become dormant. It needs to slow down their body activities. It needs to go into a resting period, which we are calling dormancy. And during that resting period, it will be inactive and it will have a very low or slow metabolism in its body. So two main types of dormancy exist. One is hibernation and the other one is aestivation. Hibernation happens during the cold periods. And by hibernating, the animal will now be able to survive the low temperatures. And because the temperatures are low, even the food availability will be low. On the opposite, aestivation happens during hot and dry seasons. And the importance of aestivation when the season is hot and dry, then aestivation enables the animal to survive the high temperatures and also to survive the shortage of water. During hibernation, it's only that the temperatures are low and food is not available, but water is not so much of a problem. Okay? Even if when it is cold now, most of the water is held in form of solid as ice, but not as water as a liquid. But in aestivation, the temperatures are hot, the environment is dry, meaning the temperatures are high and there is no enough water. So it then means that both hibernation and aestivation are actually survival strategies which enable the animal to save energy. Sababu kumbuka wakati wenye the temperature is low, there is not enough food. So if the animal keeps moving around and the food is not enough, then it will not have energy. So it needs to save, it needs to rest so that it can save energy and keep alive or stay alive until that particular point when the conditions are favorable again for that organism to live the normal life. So let's get into the particulars of the two, and we begin with hibernation. As a definition, hibernation is a long, deep, sleep-like state that some animals will enter during cold winter months. So it means the animal goes into a sleep-like mode, ni kama inalala, over that period where the temperatures are low. The importance of hibernation is that it helps the animal to survive the low temperatures. It also helps the animal to survive the food shortage. Because there is not enough food, so if the animal keeps moving, itakosa a steady supply of energy, sababu chakula haipatikani. So it has to sort of become inactive, slow down the body activities, then end up just using energy that is stored kwa mwili yake, sababu haitembei, na hata ingesema inatembea hakuna chakula, because all the other animals that it could have eaten are all hibernating. Okay? Then if it's an animal that now needs to feed on grass, at that particular point, most of the grass is covered by ice. So lazima ijipange, itafute venye itakuwa inactive for some time until the conditions have become favorable. So the main features of hibernation is that hibernation happens in winter when it is cold. Then that's now the feature of season. The temperature as a feature is that the surrounding temperature for the animal is cold and the animal's body temperature generally drops. Because when it is cold, as a human being, then you are forced to live in an environment that is lower than 37, for example. So generally, the temperature of the animal's body will drop. The animal also becomes almost inactive. It does not move, and possibly it is not even feeding, because the amount of food present is very low. Metabolism is also very slow. Okay? So the importance of a slow metabolism ni kwamba it ends up using very little energy. Okay? Then the body temperature falls close to the temperature of the environment. The heart rate, the breathing, they both become very slow. In terms of consciousness, when you look at an animal during hibernation, most of the time the animal looks asleep or even as if the animal is dead. But in the actual sense of it is that the animal is still alive. Okay? It just reduced its level of activity so that it can save energy. But what actually happens inside the body of an animal during hibernation? So during hibernation, the body temperature drops just above the freezing temperature. If the body temperature drops to freezing point, then the fluid part within our body will freeze. Then homeostatically, the animal will not be able to survive. But due to homeostasis, yes, the temperature drops, but it is just above. So the fluid part within our body does not freeze. The heartbeat is very slow and breathing is very low. Okay. At times, even if you touch an animal that is hibernating, you might think it's not breathing, but it will be breathing. Okay. Then the animal will be using body fat that is stored little by little, because remember, the hibernation is happening over a long period. So why it is using little by little ni kwa sababu the animal is almost inactive, so it does not need a lot of energy. During that time, no food or almost no water is taken in. Okay? Then also, there are hormones that help to control and keep the body in a low energy mode. So the hormones ensure that the animal is just kept alive, and hormones also ensure that the body is just using the energy that is needed as little as possible, so that it is just kept alive. Kumbuka, it is not moving, it is not doing anything, so it is inactive during this period of hibernation. We give examples of animals that can undergo hibernation there. So why is it that now hibernation is important? One is that hibernation helps animals to save energy over a period when food is not available. Okay? So during cold weather, there is not enough food available. So animals tend to hibernate so that they don't move around, wasting energy when the food availability is low. Hibernation also allows animals to survive the freezing temperatures. Equally, hibernation helps to keep animals safe from predators, because when the animal is inactive, it is hiding somewhere. It is not moving around. So during hibernation then, the predators are not able to access their prey because the predators are also hibernating somewhere. Then, the last and most important factor here is that hibernation helps to prevent exhaustion. Exhaustion ni kuchoka. So the animals don't waste energy looking for food in an environment that is harsh. The weather is already harsh. If it was to move around, run after prey, what if it does not catch the prey? Itachoka and it will have wasted energy. So to prevent that, hibernation just allows the animal to rest. It's not moving around in search of prey, and at that particular point, prey is not readily available. So inaweza zunguka na isipate. It will have wasted energy and will have not replaced the energy that it has lost. So let's just look at a diagrammatic representation of what is actually happening during the hibernation. So in hibernation, there is cold weather, which means there is a drop in temperature. Once there is a drop in temperature, food will become scarce. Then once that has happened, the animal will sense that there is a drop in temperature, there is a change in temperature, there is a change even the amount of hours that light is present in a day. Whenever there is cold weather, whenever there is winter, the number of light hours in a day reduces. Unapata kwamba giza inaanza karibu saa 9 mchana, itakuwa ni giza tayari. Okay? So once the animal has sensed that, then there is generally a slowing down in the metabolism within the body of this particular animal. Once that happens, the heart rate, the breathing, they will all decrease. Then after that, the animal will now enter into the actual hibernation, where it will sort of begin to be inactive and sort of sleep in a particular place. By doing that, the animal is now living using fat that was stored. Okay? It's not moving around. So which means ile chakula ambayo ingepata ikitembea tembea sasa inaanza kutumia tu ile mafuta ambayo ilikuwa imeweka kwa mwili yake. Then when temperatures rise, what made the animal to hibernate was the drop in temperature, the cold weather. But now when the temperatures will rise, then the animal will move out of hibernation. The animal will wake up. Okay, so that is hibernation. The opposite of hibernation is aestivation. Some people spell it as Aestivation. Others just spell it as Estivation. Both of them, they just mean the same thing. And this is a period of deep rest or inactivity, which some animals enter during a season that is hot and dry. The importance of these animals entering this period of rest or inactivity is that it helps them to avoid dehydration. Wakati yenye kuna jua, kuna temperature imeongezeka sana, it means maji hayapatikani. So the importance of the animal getting into this sort of inactivity is that it helps them to avoid being dehydrated, because there is not enough food, there is not also enough water during that time. So the main features of aestivation as a type of dormancy is that in terms of season, aestivation occurs during dry seasons or in the summer. When you look at the features as temperature, then aestivation is happening when the conditions are hot and dry. The body activity is the same as hibernation. The animal becomes almost inactive. Metabolism as well, it will slow down. The importance of that so that we can save energy. In terms of water loss, the water loss is greatly reduced because the animal is inactive. Haizunguki, so it cannot lose a lot of water. And remember, during the hot season, water will already be reduced. Okay? So maji haipatikani, so the animal does not want to risk losing water, yet it cannot replace the lost water. The purpose, just like hibernation, is to survive. But in this case, the animal is trying to survive heat and drought. In hibernation, it will be surviving cold. But in aestivation, it is surviving heat, high temperatures. So what is happening inside the body, the physiological changes? One is the metabolic rate will have dropped because the animal is inactive. So the metabolic rate has dropped. The importance of that is it helps to save energy. Equally, breathing rate, the heart rate, they all slow down. The body temperature, this time, it also falls slightly. Okay? Then, because it is hot, inamaanisha maji hayapatikani rahisi. So the body of the animal, in this case, will increase ways in which it can retain water so that it can avoid being dehydrated. Okay? Then the stored fat within the body of the animal, the stored fat, the stored glycogen, those two are now slowly being broken down so as to be a source of energy for the animal. Okay? So the animal is not moving around, is not feeding as it used to, but it is now breaking down the fat that was stored in the body the glycogen that is stored in the body, breaking it down slowly, and those two will now be acting as sources of energy. On page 4, there are examples of animals which can actually undergo aestivation. Okay, you can have a look at them. We now have to discuss the importance of aestivation. Okay, the importance of aestivation. So, the first thing is aestivation helps the animal by ensuring that the animal is prevented from dehydration and overheating. During aestivation, it means the temperatures are high. By temperatures being high, inamaanisha maji hakuna ama haipatikani kwa urahisi. Okay? Then the second importance is that aestivation helps to save energy because food and water are not readily available. Another thing is that it also increases the chances of survival, because if the animal will move around, will keep being active when the temperatures are high, chances that it will survive will be reduced. Sababu temperature ikiwa juu, chakula haipatikani sana, maana kila kitu imekauka, na pia maji hayapatikani kwa urahisi. So if the animal keeps moving around, it can be dehydrated, and because the food is not available, it can starve to death. When the conditions become normal, become conducive, animals will become active again. Okay? And once they become active again, then they can get their food, they can get the water in a normal way. So aestivation will have ended. Just a diagrammatic representation. When the weather is hot, water becomes scarce. Then the animal senses an increase in heat and an increase in the level of dryness. Once it has sensed that, it will now seek shelter. By seeking shelter, it can burrow itself in the mud, it can look for a shell or anything, just so that it can hide under it. Once it has sought shelter, the body metabolism will slow down. Energy will be saved and water loss will be reduced. Then, throughout that period, the animal will remain dormant. Once the rains return, the animal will resume its normal activity and it will wake up from its dormancy and begin moving around normally. Okay? So in that case, aestivation will have ended. So it will resume its normal activity. So as a comparison between hibernation and aestivation, one is that they are similar because they help animals to survive when the environmental conditions are harsh. But that being the similarity, they happen in different seasons and for different reasons. So let's see such differences. One of them is the season. Hibernation happens when the temperatures are low, that is during winter. But aestivation happens during hot and dry season. Then the main cause is also different because the cause for hibernation is cold weather and shortage of food. But the cause of aestivation is high temperatures and lack of water. Then the environmental temperature in hibernation is that it is low because the environment is cold. But in aestivation, the environmental temperature is high. Okay? The purpose, hibernation is to survive cold and save energy when food is scarce. But aestivation is to avoid heat and prevent dehydration. Okay? Both the energy source for hibernation is the stored body fat, which is used slowly during sleep. Equally for aestivation, it is stored fat and glycogen, which are also used slowly. Are both hibernation and aestivation important for the animal? The answer is yes. They are very important because they help provide survival strategies which help or aid animals and their ecosystems to remain stable, even during a time when the environmental conditions have become extreme. When it is cold, when it is hot, the animal, the ecosystem still remains stable. They can still survive, courtesy of hibernation and aestivation, which are very, very important survival strategies. So let's see the importance of hibernation and aestivation. One is they help animals to survive harsh climates. Hibernation and aestivation are behaviors that allow animals to survive through either very hot or very cold seasons. During hibernation, which is happening in winter, or during aestivation, which is happening when it is hot in the summer, animals will reduce their body activity. Upon reduction of the body activity, they use stored energy. They avoid exposure to dangerous temperatures. In hibernation, the temperatures are very low. In aestivation, the temperatures are very high. Both of those temperatures are dangerous for the survival of the animal. So they need to find a way to hide from these harsh temperatures. Aestivation and hibernation provides this. They also help in the prevention of mass deaths. If there is no hibernation, if there is no aestivation, then most animals will die during the extreme weather. Because when it is hot, there is no water. So if the animals don't become inactive, they will die. Okay? They will be dehydrated to death. When it is cold, there is no food. So if the animals keep moving around, they will still starve to death. So it means then hibernation and aestivation helps animals to wait until bad conditions are gotten rid of. Then the environment can become favorable again for the animals to survive. If the animals cannot avoid the bad conditions, then those animals will die in mass. So by aestivation and hibernation, helping these animals to avoid the bad conditions, it means aestivation and hibernation is critical in reducing mass mortality. And by reducing the mass mortality, then hibernation and aestivation is helping to, the species to continue surviving over time. So when the conditions are unfavorable, aestivation and hibernation assist the organisms to survive the unfavorable conditions. In the absence of hibernation and aestivation, the animals would die in mass. Okay. The other bit is the ecological balance. So when animals survive difficult seasons, this is important because the food chain is then kept stable. If, for example, you have a lot of prey species dying, if you have gazelles dying, if you have goats dying, then many predators will starve. Kama hakuna nyama, then the carnivorous animals will die because they will not have what to eat. Then if you have too many predators dying, then the prey population might increase too fast. Most of the prey population, upon increasing too fast, it is the prey population ndio inakula nyasi. So prey population ikikuwa mingi, then inamaanisha nyasi nayo or the plants zita isharaka. Okay? So it means then these two dormancy types, either aestivation or hibernation, ensures that the predators and prey remain balanced. By the predators and the prey remaining balanced, then the ecosystem is kept healthy. The health of the ecosystem is kept right. Okay. The other importance of these two ni kwamba it ensures successful reproduction. So when the conditions are harsh, the animals become inactive. They don't feed, they don't mate, and they don't reproduce during those harsh conditions. But after the harsh season has ended, the animals will wake up. They are healthy, they are strong, so they can feed, they can mate, and they can reproduce successfully after the harsh season. So through this then, aestivation and hibernation helps to ensure that the continuation of the species is guaranteed. And by doing so, it can then help in repopulating the environment even after the unfavorable condition. Okay? So in summary, hibernation and aestivation help save energy, prevent death, maintain ecological balance, and ensure reproduction. Okay? So these behaviors are excellent examples of how animals can become adapted and survive the changes in their immediate environment. When the environment is too cold, the animal will hibernate. When the environment is too hot, the animal will aestivate. By doing that, the animal is inactive, so it saves energy. It helps in preventing death. Okay? Then, by doing so, the ecological balance is guaranteed. Okay? So I stop there. We've looked at hibernation. We've looked at aestivation. Those are two types of dormancy. Dormancy is when an animal is sort of inactive because the environmental conditions are unfavorable. Two types of dormancy: aestivation when the environmental condition is hot, hibernation when the environmental condition is cold. Okay? We've seen the importance of each. We've seen whatever is happening inside the body of that particular animal. We've seen also the differences in both aestivation and hibernation. Listen to this video, read the notes, and should you have a question, please reach out. Thank you very much for that, and I look forward to engaging with you guys next. Asante.